If you're looking for a large-sized EDC with advanced features, an amazing UI, and really well thought out beam profile, then the Olight Warrior 3S is a light worth checking out. Welcome back to Shoelights. Today, I've got the Olight Warrior 3S Ti Fire version to share with you. Olight was kindly enough to send this to me for review. I got to pick which color, and of course I had to pick the fire. This thing looks amazing. But before I even open it, let's take a look at the box. I only mention this because Olight just owns the entire industry on box details. I mean, this is a custom box for this exact color of the light. And when you open it, it's got this cool little sheath here. It's got like a little quick start guide, and there's a little lift tab. I don't know. I just really like their box design. I mean, I guess it shouldn't matter, but it kind of does. It just feels like you bought something really well thought out. And you know what? If it's gift giving, if you're going to give it to somebody, it makes an impression. Look, it comes with a holster, right? And not just any holster, guys. This is a really good one. Take a look at the design of it. First off, it's really quality materials. It's got the D-ring here. It's got the little belt holster. And notice that the buckle in the front has this thoughtful little loop to keep it. So watch, I push right here. It detaches, but the thing doesn't flop around because it's retained by this. So I love this holster. Let's go through the box before I get that light out. So there's a little side panel here, and when you open it up, what you got inside is a manual and a charging cable. Now, the reason why this is out is this is not the charging cable that's in here. This is the one I have from my Olight Odin. And I just want to point out that one of the cool things about Olight is they use the same charging system on all their lights. All right, taking a look at the ergonomics of the light itself. First off, let's just take a moment to look at how beautiful it is. It's a gorgeous light. The coloring, the shape. I even love the little accents, like this little flame looking thing here. It's just a great looking light. It's got 2 channels where you can put the clip. The clip originally was up here. I reversed it and put it down here so that now it's set up for a deep pocket carry, right? The end of the light's going to almost disappear into your pocket, but it's going to stick out just enough that you can grab it and pull it out. It's a 2-way clip, obviously, here. Although I can't ever see putting this on a ball cap, but it's good to have. And it's got a side E-switch with a nice little tactile rubber boot here. It's not hard. It's actually kind of rubbery. Kind of feels good. And we got a metal tail switch, right? And notice there's no exposed charging ports because one of the great things about this light that we'll cover in the charging section is it has wireless magnetic charging. And it's got a cranial bezel. And notice that it has a TIR optic with a single emitter. It's made out of titanium. It's lighter than stainless steel, but it's definitely heavier than aluminum. And the battery inside here is a 21700, which makes this a very long runtime flashlight, 5,000 milliamp hours. Where is it? There it is, 5,000. And I mean, this light is not that big compared to other 21700s. It's pretty small, actually. So I don't always think that 21700s make a good size for EDC, but this one you could definitely EDC. It's on the larger side. You're going to know it's in your pocket, but it's not so bulky that you can't stick it in a front jeans pocket. Now let's go straight into the UI. Right around here on the button, there's this really thoughtful interface that I want to point out. If you push the button to turn it on, you're going to notice that on the right side, there's 4 little LEDs, and on the left side, there's LEDs as well. So let's do that again. Anytime you click it, you're going to get this on the right side that's going to light up, and that is the battery indicator. So it shows you, and those dots are 25% increment, and those dots are 25% increment. So you go 25, 50, 75, 100, and right now we're at 100, fully charged. Notice I have 1 dot on the left. That is the power mode of the LED. So it's on right now, and it's on at low. Now, this is a really good UI, folks. I really like it. It's actually, I mean, for a proprietary UI that a company has come up with, it's one of the best. It's like how I design it. What I mean by that is, if the light is off, like it is now, and I press and hold, I go to moonlight. Okay, that's what I want. And the moonlight's decent. The moonlight's good. We'll measure it in the Lumens section. It's got mode memory, so when you click it, it's going to go to where it was last. Now, I want to point out that I have it now set to low. If I turn it off, notice if I press and hold to go to Moonlight, that's Moonlight. Notice that when I click it off, that is memorized. Moonlight is memorized. So if I click it back on, I go back to Moonlight. I actually like that, okay? If I'm using this light at night and I don't want to wake a loved one, I want Moonlight to be memorized. That to me is a good thing. I hear some people say that's a bad thing. I like it. Now, if you want to get out of Moonlight, just press and hold, and then it goes to low, and you see that flashed for a second, and now it's on. And that's one thing that's a little confusing, but I get it because there's 4 buttons here. There's 4 lights here. Notice that this first light on the left indicates both low and Moonlight. So you kind of just have to look at it to know which one. Although by how you're pressing, you would know what you're in. Now, once I'm in low, if I press and hold, it'll cycle up to the second one, right? Which is the medium. And then press and hold. Let me do that again. Press and hold, and now we got high. So it's low, medium, high, with the first indicator being either low or Moonlight. Now there's a 4th indicator, and the only way to get to it is to double tap, and now you got turbo, okay? Now, I also want to point out that there's a tail switch on the back here. And the tail switch operates with a half press or a full press, and it's got a click and a latch. So if you want to go to level 2, okay, you're going to do a half press, just a short half press, and you can see that we're on mode 2 right now. And a short tap again turns it off. Now a half press but hold will give you that same rate, and as soon as you let go, it comes off. So that's kind of cool to have the ability to either just, click and turn it on, or press and hold, and when I'm done using it, let go. So it's, really thoughtful. Now, if you do a full click, you're going to get the turbo, and then a click again will turn it off. I also want to point out that you can tap to go to that second mode, and then click in, and then, that I'm just saying that's an option, that you can do it that way. I like the combination of side switch and tail switch. So no matter how you're holding it, you've got a way to activate it. I also like that the 2 modes that would be most probably used in a kind of, tactical grip are the mid-lumen mode 2, medium, and then the turbo. It makes sense. Because when you think about it, this is really a 5-mode light, right? Moonlight, low, medium, high, and turbo. So it makes sense that they'd put the medium and the turbo on the back. Let me show you a couple cool things about the UI. One thing I want to point out is if you look at the TIR here, the total internal reflective optic, you can see that there's a kind of little notch cut out right there. That is an optical sensor. Now, I have only ever seen, on my lights, I've only ever seen an optical sensor on the Overready Boss. And so I was like, oh, this must have a bounce sensor. Now, with really high-powered lights like this, it's a worry that you're going to go to turbo and burn a hole in your pocket or your hand. So what this thing has, which is very thoughtful, is if you go to turbo, and here we're on turbo, notice that when it senses reflection, look at that. This is automatic. See it step down? Pretty cool. Let me make sure I got the exposure locked here. Okay, here we go. Exposure's locked. See that? That's neat, right? And what's really cool about this is it also reflects it on the UI in the front. You can see that it's 4 dots, and then you can see it's 2, 4, 2. It's very responsive. It's like immediate. Another really cool thing is if you have it blocked for a long time, after about 60 seconds, it'll actually shut the whole light off. Now, I'm not going to burn footage showing you that, but I tested it and it does work, okay? Now, I like bounce sensors. I think they're a good idea, but they could be annoying if you can't defeat them. Let me give you a couple situations where that might be true. What if you want turbo, but you're in a very white environment, right? Something that reflects a lot of light. I've had my Boss Overready too sensitive before, where it would bounce back and step down from turbo, and it was annoying. Well, turns out that there is a mode in here that defeats that. So what happens is if you go to turbo, so let's go ahead and go to turbo. We're on 4 now. And notice it's stepping down. Okay, see that? Now watch this. If I double tap again, cool. So here's the logic on it. If you double tap to turbo and then it steps down and you double tap within 5 seconds of it stepping down, you defeated it. And by the way, that kind of hurts. Okay, so I'll stop doing that. But the logic is you have to double tap to turn the step down from the optical sensor off within 5 seconds of it stepping down. I read that in the manual. Okay, let's talk quickly about charging. So you do not need to take the battery out of the light to charge it. You can take it out, you can unscrew it, and it is a proprietary battery, meaning that you can't just use any old 21700. You got to use their cell. However, because it's proprietary, this is what you're getting. You're getting both terminals at the top, which allows their magnetic charging system to function properly. But notice that it's also a protected cell, meaning that if you put it in backwards, it's not going to make dual contact up here and fry it. It's got this little raised, it's protected physically with this little raised bit to prevent accidental insertion backwards. And another thing I noticed is that you can charge this light, an external charger, but you got to put like a little magnet or something right here on this nub to get to extend past. So I have little new diaminium magnets, and I should stick one there, and then it'll fit in a charger. Now, this is a really long cell, all right? It's 21700, and it's got little extra length to it. So you need to use one of those new 26800 chargers or something that fits 26800 cells. I also want to point out that the actual magnetic charging itself is really good. It's got a little, here, I'll show you this. Look at this on here. So it's got a little magnetic puck that sticks to the end in any orientation, and it just self-corrects. What I mean by that is, so you plug it into a USB source here, and it's got this little puck over here, and you just kind of go, right? And you don't have to think about it. You just go, and it just kind of sticks on. And it sticks on in any orientation. It doesn't matter. You can have it like this or like this. There's a little light right here in the stem. And when you first plug it on, it'll go red to indicate that it is charging. And then it goes green when it's done charging. The little puck has engraved on it that it's a 1 amp up to 2 amp charger, depending on the USB port you've got it in. So if you have an old style laptop, you might only get that 1 amp. On all the modern USB-A ports that I have, I did see what seemed to be 2 amp charging. Now, why do I say seemed to be? Well, it's magnetic, so it's hard for me to actually test. However, I do want to point out that the battery charged as if it was on my proprietary charger, because I charge my batteries at around 1.5 to 2 amps, and it charged that fast for sure. All right, quick size comparison against a couple other of common 21700 lights. Here we have a Convoy M21A. This has an SFT40 in it, and we'll see that later in the beam shots. Obviously, the Olight Warrior 3S itself, and then an AceBeam L35. All three of these use 21700s and 5000 milliamp batteries. Notice that I'm holding the top of this AceBeam. Maybe this should have gone in the ergonomics section, but if I let go, that's one of the things that I don't like is, trust me, I don't like unnecessary cutouts or unnecessary crenulations on bezels. But this AceBeam loves to roll. It just will not stay put. The Convoy here has these little kind of cutouts on the side here, and that just kind of lets it fall into a channel. And the Olight is the same way. These little raised bits on the side are not just for looks. They actually prevent it from rolling around. So that's a cool thing. Notice how much smaller this light is than these two. Now, I'm not saying this is the smallest 21700 in the world. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that it is definitely on the small side for what people think of when they think of 21700 lights. The biggest reason I chose these three is because I love the beam profile on this thing. I find it kind of a weird kind of mid-distance to close up that I don't find with these two, right? I find that these lights kind of are for outside only, if that makes sense. This one it's kind of a nice, even, round hotspot. It's kind of a mule-like hotspot with a spill that I love to work with. We'll see that more in the beam shot section. All right, let's measure some lumens and some tint. So notice that I'm at 0 lumens here. If I take this cap off, you see I'm measuring some ambient light. But if I plug up this hole, it should go down to 0 again. Good. Okay, let me press and hold to put it on to moonlight. and you'll see the moonlight is just over a lumen, which is acceptable. It's not the lowest moonlight I've ever seen, but for a throwy light, it's pretty good. Now, if I click it again, we should go off. Now I'm going to click once. Oh, wait, you know what? It memorizes moonlight. So I'm going to press and hold, and I've gone to the low now. And low is 20 lumens. Now press and hold again. And here is the medium, if I can get it in the hole. Okay, I'm off my range here. So we got 230 lumens about. And if I press and hold again, I should have high, and high is, so the bounce sensor comes on in the top two modes. So you can see my conundrum. When I'm on one of the top two modes, either high or turbo, the bounce sensor will actually step it down. So what I'm reading here on high is 300, but that's the step down rate. I'm going to go with what the manufacturer states of 800 lumens. But lastly, if we go to turbo, double tap, same thing's going to happen, but what I can do is double tap again to defeat it, and you see we're getting 2,000 lumens, all right? And notice it's not dropping that fast. I've been using this light for a bit already. I mean, that's a slow drop. I mean, that's a little bit of voltage sag, but I mean, we got a good driver in here then, all right? So I'm pretty happy with this. Clearly, it started at 2,000. And by the way, I'm not fully charged yet either. I've been using the video for a bit. But I've been talking for 30 seconds already, and I'm still at 1860 or something. All right, so I'll go ahead and turn that off. I do want to point out that with a titanium light like it is, it's getting kind of toasty around the head. Now, that's not a big issue, and down here by the handle, it's no problem at all. It's only up here when I touch it. But I just want to point out that titanium doesn't have the greatest thermal properties, but man, does it look cool. Olight states that the light will run for 55 days on moonlight, which was the 1 lumen setting, and that even on medium, which was about 230 lumens, they claim that it'll last about 13 hours. So this is an efficient light that will run a long time. All right, let's do a quick tint and CCT measurement on medium. On medium, we got just under 6,000 CCT. We got it about 100 points over the black body locus. Let's do it on turbo. And on turbo, let's center that beam. And let's see here. And it runs cooler at about 6,000, almost 500. And it gets a little closer to the BBL. Notice that this is a low CRI light. If you're looking for high CRI, this is not the one. This thing is about output and about design and usability. Okay, it's time for beam shots. Here's the Warrior 3S, and let's take a look at how it fares next to the L21A from Convoy. Now, this is the SFT40. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it on the highest it goes. And so here is a typical beam shot of a 21700 from Convoy. You can see it's very throwy. Now, one of the points I'm going to make is that this is not as throwy, and I kind of like that. So here, let me take the L35 from Ace Beam, which is definitely floodier. I call this a kind of a mid-range or a floody thrower, and these two are more similar to each other. They're both TIR optics. This one's much larger though. Okay, this one has an XHP 70.2 in it. Let's go straight to turbo, and you can see how it illuminates a bigger swath. Just as a reminder, guys, I've got the exposure locked, and that tree line down at the end there is 150 meters. Now let's take a look at the Olight. I'll go straight to turbo. All right, there you go. And you can see that it's got this great kind of even hot spot and then spill. The L35, by comparison, has a hot spot and a corona and then spill. So it's got 3 distinct stages, whereas the Olight has this kind of hot spot that's so even. It's like a mule hot spot, I call it. I love the way it looks, to be honest. So again, let's look at it on that tree line 150 meters away. And this is turbo for this one. So this is turbo for the L35, which is, the L35 is almost 3,000 lumens. And then this one's 2,000 lumens. And you can see that it's doing really good as well. So I do think that the L35 outthrows it a little bit, but here's the thing. This is going to be much better for everyday carry. because of this better hotspot up close, right? And also, let me take a look really quickly here at the Warrior in the different levels. So here's low, okay? And here is medium, all right? And again, you can see how well this is doing. And here's high, okay, so there's high. And then double click for turbo, all right? Let's go ahead and take this into the backyard and see how it looks close up at a close range. Okay, we're in the backyard here, and I'm gonna start with the convoy. Let me get this up at a higher rate here. So that wall is 15 meters away, so it's about a tenth of what we saw before. And I wanna point out that on the convoy here, you see how definitely, throwy this is. So even at 15 meters away, this is just very throwy, very concentrated, a lot of candela. I wouldn't use this for walking around or at least close up work. This would be something I would hike with. Whereas if you take a look at, there we go. I used the tail switch just then. And so I went to mode 2 on the Warrior here. And you can see that the Warrior has a much more usable hotspot and the spill is much more even. So I really like how the optic is balanced on this. If I can take a look at the L35, let me click that off. There we go. There's the L35. Let's go up a level there. The L35 has a great beam, and I've always liked it for the fact that you could use it for close-up work. But notice that on the L35, it definitely has a distinct hotspot, kind of a corona around that, and then a spill that tapers off. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it starts intense and then it kind of graduates out, which I don't mind. I like this a lot. But there's kind of a look that I like to the way this optic is optimized, where it's so flat in the middle and then there's just this even spill all the way out. So I have a usable area around the hotspot, but then I put the hotspot on what I want to see and I can see it very clearly. Let's go ahead. Now I have the white balance locked. I have the exposure locked. Let's see what turbo looks like. And you can see turbo turns night into day at close quarters like this. I believe that Olight has made just a wonderful light here. I gotta admit that I'm a bit of a tint snob and I love warmer emitters, especially around 4000K. So when you throw a 6000K emitter into a light like this, I don't really take notice. But I'm glad that Olight asked me to review it because they've kind of converted me. I understand that there's a place and a time for cool, bright emitters. And if you're using it as a tool, and I could see law enforcement, I could see people out in forestry and stuff using a light like this. It's efficient, it's bright, it's got a great beam and hotspot, it's got all the kind of features you want. In fact, I mean, the only light that I have that's more advanced than this one is the Over 80 Boss, and it's like 3 times the price. So I think this is a real winner of a light. I could see people liking it. And I haven't done so yet, but my understanding is that none of the bezel's glued down, so maybe I'll open it up and try and do a swap at some point. But I haven't done it yet, and part of the reason I haven't done it is because there just is a time and place for cool, blue, low CRI emitters. Sometimes you need something like that. So I'm still debating whether I just want to keep it in my collection as is. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.